While this may sound overly profound and slightly cliche, I believe that life is truly not worth living unless it is filled with purpose of some kind. It doesn't have to be this grandiose goal or ultimate achievement either. It could simply be caring for the ones you love, fostering a caring family, or leading an honest and hardworking life. Regardless of what the end goal may be, purpose is something that drives us, makes us whole, and fills us with the satisfaction and motivation needed to live our lives to the fullest. The characters of Demon Slayer are all unique in the way that they each have a common focus and purpose that they would like to achieve in life. Tanjiro wants nothing more than to save his sister from the torment and fate of becoming a demon. Shinobu wants to avenge her sister by killing Doma and restore pride to the Kocho name. And Muzan fights desperately each and every day to conquer the sun, the one and only thorn in his side when it comes to escaping mortality in this world. While this by no means encapsulates the wide cast of characters presented in this story, you can't deny that whether good, evil, or even sometimes ambiguous, it is clear that Gotoge has intentions with each personality, motivation, and story arc that she tells throughout this epic tale. Quite logically, as we find out reading throughout the story, most of the characters' main goals fall directly in line with their overarching themes. For the sake of simplicity, let's talk about my previous 3 examples and how they fall into this storytelling pattern. Tanjiro embodies an undying love for family and selflessness, sacrificing everything for the sake of his sister Nezuko. Shinobu embodies the hidden rage and sense of vengeance that is prevalent all throughout the Demon Slayer world by suppressing her emotions, carrying her trauma in secrecy. And Muzan, being the antithesis to Tanjiro, embodies greed, selfishness, and the pursuit of perfection, all for the sake of himself. All of these ideas and concepts fall right in line with where the story is seeming to take these characters throughout the narrative, and also seem to give us clues on where they'll end up as well. And you may be thinking to yourself, wouldn't this cookie cutter approach to almost every character make the story bland and completely predictable? To which I would say, yes. Yes, it would. But in my analysis of the series, I found that the mangaka breaks this creative pattern with one character in particular, and judging by the title of this video, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Akaza is unique in the fact that while he plays a monumental role in the story, he himself has no knowledge of his own purpose and goals in life. This brash and seemingly psychotic demon fights only for the sake of himself and seems to care only about converting strong people that he fights into demons. But behind this crazed personality was a human, and while that human lived a troubled life and had many hardships, still captured the essence of a golden heart and an unyielding sense of loyalty. In today's video, I wanted to analyze Akaza's background, personality, fights against Rengoku and Tanjiro, and ultimate demise to truly dissect how this character diverges from Gotoge's character pattern, initially being one who was so hated, to one that made us empathize and truly feel saddened by his fate, to the point where he was cherished and loved as a result. This is one of the greatest turnarounds in anime, and I'm super excited to be talking about one of my favorite demons in the story. So without any further delay, this is the tale of Upper Moon 3 Akaza. What's up, anime fanbase? Welcome back to Anime Analysis, a channel dedicated to discussing and analyzing all things anime has to offer. We are back at it again with another Demon Slayer discussion video featuring none other than our martial arts loving badass Akaza. If you would like to see any other characters covered on this channel or have suggestions for other anime you'd like to see me dive into, make sure you continue your amazing support and leave your suggestions and thoughts in the comments below. Akaza, originally known as Hakuji, was a poor boy who lived with his father, who suffered from sickness. To pay for the medicine to cure his father, Akaza turned to a life of crime and pickpocketed many of the local townsfolk. Unknown to the townspeople, who dubbed him a demon child and someone with an evil heart, young Hakuji was anything but evil. He would willingly and gladly sacrifice himself for the sake of his father in order to raise enough money to pay for his father's medicine. Having heard of his numerous arrests and the fact that Hakuji obtained money through dishonest means, his father hung himself, leaving him with no home in the process. Without a care or purpose left in the world, Hakuji wandered the streets, feeling destined that he was to live a miserable life and that fate was not on his side. And upon nearly murdering 7 adult men in the streets, he was confronted by a jovial man by the name of Keizo, the owner of a local dojo. Annoyed by the man's cheerful demeanor, Hakuji challenged him to a fight but was quickly and utterly beat down. Upon waking up, he is offered a position in the dojo to take care of Keizo's daughter, Koyuki, and through time in the dojo and by growing a bond with Koyuki, did Hakuji begin to feel a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. 2 years had passed and things would begin to look up for him. Koyuki had been recovering, Keizo's Soryu style was growing, and while rival dojos looked to challenge them, none could win in a fair fight. But things could only remain calm for so long. Hakuji had been blessed to marry Koyuki, and while telling his father's tombstone the good news, disaster would strike at the dojo. The rival dojo, bitter by their losses, poisoned the well in which Koyuki and Keizo drank from, and they shortly died as a result. In a fit of rage, Hakuji murdered all 67 members of the dojo with his bare hands until none could even be recognized. This marks Hakuji's descent into the Akaza that we meet in the beginning of the story. With a lost sense of purpose in life, wandering aimlessly and wrought with despair, Hakuji meets with none other than the big bad himself, Muzan Kibutsuji, who offers to turn him into one of the 12 demon moons. And while I'm sure many of you who are watching this video are well aware of his background, it serves to show us how truly different Akaza is set up in relation to every other character throughout the story. Apart from the apparent tragedy, which is common amongst most characters in the story, he lacks any purpose. As I stated earlier, purpose is fundamental to who we are as people, and Akaza lost purpose not only once, but twice. First, letting down his dad, a person who he had constantly looked up to and aspired to care for. And secondly, abandoning the adopted family that he had come to love in Koyuki and Keizo. And as most would agree that these failures and shortcomings were objectively not his fault, he rationalized that they were because in his mind, it would be better to cope with the trauma as opposed to claiming there was absolutely nothing that could be done about the situation. This is exactly why when Akaza turns into a demon and loses his memory as a human, there is one clear and obvious metric that he values above all else: strength. And having lost his memories and motivation in life, I truly believe that this thought sticks with Akaza into his demon self because he believes deep down that it was his lack of strength that caused the death of his father and his beloved sensei and soon-to-be wife. Letting go is exponentially harder than holding on, and by constantly yearning to fight strong opponents and staying alive was a way for him to atone for his believed wrongdoings and failures in life while he was a human. So, with that narrative exposition out of the way, let's unravel Akaza's character as we analyze his interactions with the other characters throughout the story, mainly through his fights with Tanjiro and Rengoku. Akaza makes it clear from the beginning of the fight that strength is essentially the only thing he really values in this world. Immediately trying to convert Rengoku into a demon, he shows us that strength is something that defines your worth in this world, even calling Tanjiro worthless due to being unable to defend himself. This massively sets him apart from best boy Rengoku, who not only believes all life has virtue and meaning, but believes that anybody, no matter who they are or where they came from, has the potential for greatness. By the way, if you're interested in seeing an in-depth analysis on the Flame Pillar himself and haven't checked it out, I'll leave a link to the card right here. The reason we see Akaza as this social Darwinist, if you will, is because his traumatic past resonates throughout him, even with his lost memories. He believes that keeping the weak around will only cause them to backstab the strong in the end, just as his beloved companions were. And although we didn't know it at the time, Rengoku vs. Akaza firmly illustrates the difference between acceptance and persistence. Rengoku, perfectly accepting of what it means to be human, cherishes the limited time we have on Earth, while Akaza seems to be aimlessly clinging on to a meaningless life, devoid of any real purpose other than proving his superiority in combat. And I'll admit, myself included, this absolutely frustrated viewers upon first meeting this character, especially with the way of how he handled his escape from Rengoku. Admit it, if you weren't triggered, you do not have human emotions. However, during his fight with Tanjiro, things take quite the unexpected turn. Let's jump into it. The word that I think comes to mind thinking through the fight between Tanjiro and Akaza is reminiscence. Of course, this is the point in the story when Tanjiro assumes a badass no-self state and absolutely obliterates Akaza. But even more than the fight itself, the manga does an amazing job of turning a once-hated character into someone we can soundly empathize and feel sorry for. Being pushed to his absolute limit, he comes to a sudden and impactful realization. Strength, although important, is meaningless unless you have someone to fight for or protect. And although that he could easily have kept fighting long after having his head completely cut off, he chose not to, because it was more important for him to die and be with the ones he loves, as opposed to living on in the empty shell of his mortal life. That is exactly why I believe Akaza becomes one of the most beloved characters we see in the entire story. Accepting defeat is the ultimate sign of peace within his mind and is what I believe to be a greater display of strength than anything he had physically done throughout the story. Like many redemption arcs in anime, Akaza leads a life of atonement and is the perfect example of the fate of someone who may have lost their purpose. I believe that if we can learn anything from Akaza, it's to hold on to even the smallest bits of things you cherish in this world, because they truly are the fuel that keeps all of our fires burning. What are your thoughts on Akaza's character? I really tried my best to be as thorough as possible, but please chime in with your thoughts if there's something that I missed or may have overlooked. What is your take on this amazing character? I'd love to hear your thoughts and commentary below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, as I would love for you to stick around. Thank you all so much for watching. Your support is truly remarkable. As always, it's been Dill from Anime Analysis, and until next time, stay curious, anime fam. Peace.